Welcome to the show. I'm Steven Zavarnik. Each week, we draw a personal or professional development topic out of the hat, peel it apart to give you some practical mindset and applications for your own life to where you can be unstoppable. This week, we are in part 3 of our high performance experience series, the recap from Brendan Burchard's event that I attended a few weeks ago. And today we're talking about some success strategies. But before we get into that, if you haven't been living under a rock, you know that there's a virus going around. The coronavirus is causing a lot of just crazy behavior, honestly. I mean, we're reacting to something based in a lot of fear because we don't know what's going to happen. And so I want to take a minute to talk about that. And I know I'm not an expert, and I know a lot of other people have been discussing this because it's, the important topic of the moment. And that's because it's a serious thing. And we need to take care of ourselves. Some of the behavior we've seen in the news is a little disappointing for humanity. It makes us, as a species, kind of look bad. But I know that any time that there's something serious like this happening, there's an equal, if not greater, number of people trying to help other people out. So I really want to draw back and just talk about, when big life events like this happen. Because this is something that's going to go down in the history books. This is the first time something big like this has happened since we've been as connected as we are. So that's changed things and how we react a little bit differently because we can see everything going on. That also means we have to do a lot more work to peel back and find out the real information. But at the end of the day, we have to control what we can control. And that's ourselves. More than anything else, it's ourselves, it's our families. I am working from home for the foreseeable future, just as an example, and have had to make adjustments myself. That's pale in comparison to some people. But you need to know that everybody's watching. Everything, you see these videos online of people fighting people for toilet paper. That's just one example, but everybody's watching. I think we all think about this, or maybe most of us think about this in our minds, it's like, man, how would I be in like those superhero moments? You see all the Marvel movies and you see all these people that are like coming up and stepping into it and helping out when big tragic events happen. And so I think a lot of us think about that. Who are we going to be? So be your ideal self in this situation. Who are you at your best in times of struggle? Because it says a lot about you. And again, everybody's watching. So people are going to remember how you showed up to this table right here. How did you show up for this? Did you take care of the people around you? Or did you get selfish and not help anybody else out? Are you going to be proud of who you are today when you look back on it in 5, 10, 15 years? When your kids and grandkids are asking about this event, how are you going to tell that story? So again, I'm not an expert. I'm just following the news like you all, and frankly, concerned just like every one of you. Because I've never encountered this. I don't know what's going to happen. But it looks like it could get really bad. And so I just wanted to leave you with my approach and how I'm thinking about this, because at the end of the day, we really only have control over ourselves. So thank you for that. Let's transition into some success strategies. All right, so strategies for success. We're going to talk about goal setting, and we're going to go over some of this really briefly because I've covered it in other episodes before. So we're going to do goal setting, which has been its own episode, some daily routines that feed into those goals, and then some time ownership techniques. And what this is all about is this is strategies, right? Sometimes you have the goal and we've got that down. Like I know what I want to do. Like I want to write a book or I want to learn this skill or whatever you have your sights set on. Great, you're clear on that piece, which is amazing. But maybe you're going about it the wrong way. Maybe you haven't tried this avenue or tried this path to go forward. And sometimes that's what stumps us up. We know what we want to do. It's just the skill development. Sometimes it's putting in the work. Sometimes it's figuring out what you need to do. And so that's what this is. So first of all, goal setting. If you don't have a clear goal, go back and look at that episode. I think it was episode 2 because it's episode 1 or 2 because it was on the new year. It was around the new year time. And so come up with something that you want to do. Don't think too much about it. Like, what do you want to do? Who do you see yourself in 1, 2, 3 years? What has that person accomplished? And then peel that back, go back to that episode. We're going to talk about identity goals. For me, I have a book in the works, slowly but surely, still in the research phase. But the identity goal is becoming an author. That label that I get when I publish that book, I'm tying it to that. I'm going, how does it feel to be an author? Like really sitting in that, closing your eyes, sitting there and imagining that future, visualizing it on a regular basis, because that's what helps keep me on track. If I can't visualize something, I can't do the day-to-day work for it. It's very difficult for me to do things without a future concept. That's just how I operate. And then when you have that goal, wind it back. How are you going to get there? If you have a goal for New Year's, if you have a goal by 2021, what are you going to do? How is the year broken up into months? So draw 12 boxes. What can you do to step yourself up to reaching that goal in 12 months? A lot of us have fitness goals for the new year, and we go first thing in January, and then we get burnt out, and it's a drastic shift to our schedule, and we don't follow through. And a lot of that can be prevented if we plan it out, if we have that strategy, and if we look at not trying to achieve the goal in a month, but really trying to make it a New Year's resolution instead of a new month's resolution. We get caught up in this concept of like, oh, I got to get that now. And it's like, no, this is a process. You got to enjoy that. You got to work at it. So it's just a little bit at a time. And by doing stuff like that, I know that my default has changed just by making those incremental changes towards goals. The default way that I am in the day-to-day basis has drastically changed from what it was just a couple years ago. So again, goal setting, we've talked a lot about that in the past. Go back to that episode, give it a listen. But strategies are great, and you like to think big picture, but really the big picture is made up of the day-to-day. That comes down to daily routines. There's a reason where in the personal professional development space, everybody is talking about morning routines, because the first thing you do in the day sets up the rest of your day. You have goals to achieve, you have a family, you have life to live, you have all of this stuff going on. I think if I asked everybody in the audience who's listening to this, hey, are you busy? You're going to raise your hand. Everybody's busy nowadays. But are you productive? Are you doing things that will advance your life? Are you doing your life's work? And just one thing. Just pick one goal and prioritize it. But you can't expect to be able to make time for a goal like that if you're not even building the habits daily to just set yourself up to even attack that goal. So really, your daily routines are to take care of you, to keep you up. What are you doing spiritually? What are you doing physically for your health? What are you eating? Are you meditating? All of these little things. How are you relating to other people? All these tiny little things that you can group up into a routine. That's what automates that process and habitualizes that process to where every day you're taken care of. You're performing at your best. You're connecting with people. You have energy to show up and get the job done. So you have to take care of that. And that changes. You have to adjust at the same time. I just changed up my morning routine because you know what I wasn't doing? I wasn't doing some of the things I wanted to do. I have been terrible about my meditation habit lately. And so you know what? I pulled back and I'm like, I do the same routine every morning. It's locked in. I'm also testing no coffee. I think I'm on 3 or 4 days with no coffee. Yeah, still have all this energy going. It hasn't really affected that. But it has given me more time in the morning. So I don't know if I'm going to stick with that. I think it's looking likely that I will because of the benefits so far. But it has caused me to adjust other pieces of that. I'm like, look, meditation and stillness is just key to me becoming who I am. And that's the person I want to be, is somebody who's, calm, in tune with myself, just having that confidence in life. I have a friend, and she's quite spiritual. And the last time I saw her, she just had confidence, but it was different. It was just a confidence in life. Like nothing could stop her. Kind of like Be Unstoppable, kind of what I'm all about. But it wasn't anything specific that she did. It was just something I felt from her. It was really interesting, and it stuck with me. And it's like, that is the image and the feeling of what I'm chasing. And so I need to prioritize. And I know, you put first things first. One of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. Put first things first. I'm like, all right. I take about an hour to an hour and 20 minutes when I wake up at home to do, I got to shave. I got to get, some green drink in me. I try to meditate. Got to take care of the dog. All of this stuff I have on the list. I've got to do my high performance planner. So I have all of this stuff, but the things that really were going to help me were at the end of that list. They were falling off. I wasn't doing the meditations if I got behind. Wasn't sitting down to do the planner if I got behind, because it was like, oh, I kind of already planned out the week. I kind of know what I need to do. And that's like the trap I'll get in, is like, oh, I got it. Don't worry about it. And so what I did was, I'm like, all right, what do I care about? What do I want to do every day? And the first thing was meditation. So I'm like, all right, let's do it first. I will wake up, brush my teeth, and then meditate and or do some breath work. That's why I brush my teeth. You don't want to do breath work without brushing your teeth. It's gross. And then I'm going to sit down and do the planner. And now my morning routine has gotten shaken up by, working from home now, but, I've adapted. I was able to do that for 2 mornings before that shift. And I got everything done that I wanted to do in the same amount of time. It was really interesting, and I was kind of surprised. I'm like, why am I doing that? And I'm like, probably because I'm not stressed out. I'm doing what I know I want to do to take care of myself first. You wake up out of bed, it's 20, 30 minutes of just nothing, of just me sitting there with some headphones in. I'm either just straight meditating with some thunderstorms in the background or doing some Wim Hof breathing. And that usually total between both takes about 30 minutes. And I feel great after that. And then I go and do the planner. And the planner takes 10 minutes. I usually give myself 20 is what I scheduled for. And then the rest is easy. And I'm happy doing it because I've already done the big things. I've done the things that I know are going to help me be successful in the day-to-day. And then I went and I'd shave real quick, take the dog out, drink my green drink, and I'm like, oh, like I'm on time. I thought this was going to take longer. But when it was flip-flopped, I would be bouncing around, doing other stuff, getting distracted. But when I'm doing the big things first and taking care of what I want to first, everything else is like, that's at the end. All right, like, let me wrap all the other little stuff up real quick. That's easy. It just shifts mentally how we look at that stuff. So if you're struggling with implementing a habit and it's really important to you, make it the first piece of a routine. Make it the first big task you do in the morning. The next thing we're going to talk about is time ownership. And we kind of led into that with first things first. But when it comes to goals, do you really want it? And I'm sure you think you do. I do. I do this all the time. I'm not being judgmental at all with this episode, but prove it. I told you about the book. I have not been prioritizing that. I have been working on other projects in the whole facet of who I want to become. But specifically for the book, I had intended to. I put it in my calendar, but I wasn't following through with it. Other things kept coming up, and I let them. So that's why I'm saying pick one thing. And so I shifted that schedule and made some adjustments to where I'm at least making some baby steps now. But pick one thing that is important to you and dedicate some time, whether it's every day or every week. I sometimes do better when I can lock in and go for a while. So for me, if it's something big, I'm like 4 hours on a Sunday. Like, this is what I'm working on. And I usually try to go someplace to do that. That way there's a little bit less distraction. I'm not distracted because I work from home. Like, this is my apartment. So it's really easy for me to be like, oh, let me fold laundry real quick. Oh, let me do all of this stuff real quick. Oh, I can always I get distracted by cleaning. If I have other stuff to do, I'll be like, oh, no, let me clean. And then you feel productive, but you weren't really productive. Has anybody ever done that? I do it all the time. I was like, oh, I need to do this, but I also need to do this. And that's cleaning is instant gratification. Something looks dirty, boom, it looks clean right away. After you clean it, you're good. You get a little dopamine hit from cleaning the house. But you weren't working on what you really wanted and needed to work on. So it's where that discipline muscle comes in. It's where scheduling. You got to schedule it. You got to visualize your day. You got to execute on it. So whether it's something that you're going to work on 30 minutes a day, if that works for you, 30 minutes or an hour a day, or the 4 hours a week, like, what is the one thing that is part of who you want to become, part of the legacy you want to leave behind, that's part of your life's work that you want to work on? And man, own it. Take control and own it. Time is life. All right. Thank you guys. Again, be safe with this virus going around. Do what you need to do to stay clean, stay healthy. Look into some of these success strategies. It's, how are you doing on your goals? We're in the middle of March now. Have you been on schedule with your New Year's resolutions? Did you make them? Whether you do or don't, have you been on schedule with some of your goals? How have your daily routines been feeding into those goals? And have you really owned who you want to become in life? I hinted at a couple different books this week, so for a recommendation, I'm going to go ahead and roll with Stephen Covey's 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. Kind of goes, hand in hand with the high performance work and high performance habits. But it's just a different look from a different time. It's a good framework to use. It's one of the early introductory frameworks. It was, when I was doing self-development, before I even knew I was doing self-development, I went through the course and I loved it. And I didn't realize what it was. And I wasn't aware enough of myself to be like, hey, this is something that you should probably look at. It was 3, 4, 5 years later that I was like, oh, self-development, that's what this is, and this is the thing I like that I've been happy doing whenever it's come up in my life for the past, couple decades. Why don't I do that more often and full time because I love it? Like, that's how that happened. So give that book a read. He makes a whole lot of good analogies and stories and really just puts things into plain English, especially if you are new to personal and professional development. It's a great stepping stone to a big world that can go super deep in different directions, whether it's psychology, neuroscience, nutrition, and just life skills in general. It's a great place to start. So that's going to be our recommendation for this week. Next week, we have part 4, the final part of our HPX recap series. And we're going to be talking all about people. So we're just going to go over a couple different frameworks on how to interact and some negotiations, which is really just communication if you think about it. So we'll go over that next week. I appreciate all of you for giving me your time and helping support this show. It's something I'm sitting here trying to grow. So if you could, come find me on Facebook. You just search my name. There's the public page, or on LinkedIn. And let me know what you think. I appreciate it. You all have a great week. Stay safe. Stay healthy. And I'll talk to you next Tuesday.